Hello and welcome to our stories. This is where we take a look at stories that made headlines in 2014. I'm Kathy Mutlatlana, and joining me here in studio are eNCA reporters Karen Moon, Annika Larson and Pagamile Hlubi. The Oscar Pistorius murder trial was the biggest news story of the year in South Africa, and we were there to cover it. Now, over the next hour, we will look back at what happened. Well, let's take you back to the 14th of February 2013, the day that shocked the world.
Something terrible happened at 4 a.m. in the Oscar Pistorius household. When the shots died down, his girlfriend of just 4 months lay dead. A tragic accident or something more sinister. Paramedics rushed to the house in the upmarket Silverwood estate in Pretoria East. They pronounced Reeva Steenkamp dead, and police quickly surrounded the house. Later that morning, South Africa's Olympic hero was taken away and charged with murder. One resident has told us that she heard the sounds of screaming and shouting coming from Pistorius' home in the moments before the shooting. Police say they are aware of those claims and will be questioning his neighbours about them. eNCA understands that a police psychologist has already interviewed Pistorius. Throughout, we heard the Olympic star sobbed and repeatedly described the shooting as a horrible accident. We understand he will claim that he mistook Reeva Steenkamp for a burglar and thought he was defending his life. Karen Moon, Johannesburg.
Well, nothing can quite explain the media frenzy that we saw hours after this story broke. Karen Moon, you were there that morning. What was the reaction from journalists and police who were on the scene?
I remember quite significantly at one point a young woman who'd actually been friends with Reeva Steenkamp coming to outside the complex and just breaking down and saying, I don't think this can be true, I don't think this can be true. And her kind of sheer disbelief, I think, was echoed throughout everyone who was outside that house. And I think it still is. I mean, this is an almost Shakespearean fall from grace that none of us could have believed. I mean, I remember on the morning that it happened, it was Valentine's Day morning, and getting an SMS from a police officer said, "You should answer your phone, I'm calling you now." And he said, "Oscar Pistorius has shot his girlfriend." And those words were just completely incomprehensible to me for at least like 5 minutes. I could not believe that this Paralympic hero, who South Africa had welcomed to the airport, who we'd regarded as a kind of symbol of resilience and courage and everything that we hoped our society would embody, would now be in a situation where he had killed a woman that he professed to love.
And perhaps for the first time that we saw just a glimpse of how much the frenzy around this was going to be was at the bail application. 5 days he spent behind bars, and then he was granted bail. Would you say that what came out of that bail hearing gave an indication just of how Oscar's life would never be the same again?
Throughout that bail application, he sobbed. When his defense team was reading his statement into the record about his account of what had happened, which of course would be such a linchpin moment in this trial. I mean, his lawyers and himself came under criticism. People said, well, you've essentially disclosed your entire defense. You've allowed the state to prepare their case against you. But it was such an incredible moment in that courtroom to see this young man, who only a few months before had been a global hero, described as one of Time magazine's most influential people, now reduced to this quivering wreck in a courtroom, in a tiny cramped courtroom, surrounded by journalists crying. I don't think you can possibly begin to grasp the kind of intensity of that story.
All right, well, dramatic days indeed, but it would be over a year after Steenkamp's death before the murder trial got underway in March 2014. Day one of the trial began with Oscar Pistorius answering to a charge of premeditated murder.